Hey everyone, welcome to another Cigar Chat, episode 85 with Tradicion Cubana. I'm Smoking Logan, your host as always. Rob's not here, so we can just skip all the fun jokes. Tonight I have Terry Johnson from Tradicion Cubana and TL Johnson Cigars with me. Terry, how's it going, buddy?
How are you, man? Thanks for inviting.
Hey, no problem, man. Anytime. So it's been a long time since we've had you on the show. I believe it's been about a year or so. So,
Yeah.
I think everyone's familiar with, TL Johnson and what you've been doing. But for the people that are listening out there that don't know you, give a little bit of background on Law Tradition as well as TL Johnson cigars.
Well, what we've done in the last year is it kind of snuck up on us, but we were happy for it to happen. We actually now are growing our own tobacco. Um, so this first year we actually grew Criollo 98, and we just harvested that a couple of months ago. It's all in process right now. We're looking to expand yet this year from that standpoint. So as a young company, I kind of knew a couple of years ago that I needed to um, have my hands a little deeper in the business. Number one, for quality control. So I'm a picky person, and um, I am very picky about quality. So honestly, I jumped on the opportunity to grow tobacco, to expand that way and become vertical, as they say, so that we can control the quality of tobacco. Um, we're looking at some new facilities between Lewis and myself, and it's kind of like it's a work in progress all the time because we're constantly working on improving what we already have, and so we're very prideful people, and as far as the cigar business is concerned, and I think it shows in our product.
No, I mean absolutely. I mean, so a question that I have here is that, recently there's been obviously a spike in tobacco prices, and everyone's been talking about, everyone's going vertical. People are actually making factories and growing their own tobacco. And I know that your farm is in the Dominican, um,
Correct.
and I know I've recently been to Nicaragua, and I know a lot of places, land in Esteli and around the area is very difficult to acquire. How difficult is it to actually acquire in Dominican to grow quality tobacco?
Currently, it hasn't. Well, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that because, honestly, we were at the right place at the right time.
Okay.
So yes, I do have some more acreage come available this year because of a major company, U.S. company, pulled out of the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So we have been able to grab up ground outside in the Chivao Valley that was currently used for cigarette tobacco. So if that
Okay.
kind of gives it away, gives it away.
That's what I
But
was guessing. But yeah.
so I can tell you, if anybody has watched um, watched our Facebook pages, we also the name of our is not the name of our company for our tobacco grow, our farm and tobacco company, and eventually brokerage, that we're kind of the way that the direction that we're moving towards. We It's called Compañía de Siembra Hoja de Tradicion, and which is Company of Farms, Leaves of Tradition. So I can tell you, when I was down there in April and all our tobacco was hanging in the barns, it would have. We have some gorgeous stuff that is being processed right now. So to get back to your question, I have been told when I was even at the airport a year ago. Um, I don't know what you're hearing, but yeah, there's a lot of people supposedly growing tobacco. There's a lot of people that have started factories. I mean, we see factories, and you see factories probably more than I do spring up because I'm not watching as close. But um, I kept getting told that there was a shortage of tobacco. So you hear that. I don't know when that's going to hit. Is that going to hit, now, or is that going to be 2 years from now when we see tobacco um, in a little bit shorter supply because they're using it up now. I'm buying some really premium grade tobacco, so yes, some of my prices on some of my stuff coming out, my new Legend Reserve 63, for example, that we're going to be reintroducing at the IPCPR. There's a marked. I mean, it's not a drastic change in price, but it is enough that people will see it. But they have to understand. And I can tell you right here tonight, I am using some very expensive quality tobacco to make that cigar. So it's not like I'm just slapping, what they call an inferior leaf in there and calling it good and trying to make money. I'm actually using some very, very quality and limited tobacco that we've been able to lay our hands on. So yes and no, there is some shortage out there, and yes, you're right, the prices have gone drastically, have gone up quite a bit.
Have gone up, yeah. Well, let's talk about the Legend Reserve. So right now, within the TL Johnson portfolio, you have the Legend Reserve 63, you have the Maduro as well as the Habano. They come in several different vitolas, ranging from a Robusto up to a Churchill. You just mentioned that you're going to be kind of reintroducing. Tell us a little bit about that and where that's coming from.
The two things. As I stated before, I'm very picky about the quality, and for me, it's about consistently improving the quality. So I improved the quality of the blend. And I backed off the box count from 20 to 10. Makes it a little more affordable when a guy goes, into a cigar shop. He wants to try a few instead of buying a box of 20. It's a 150 to 175 bucks. He can buy it around that $100 price tag. If he's only got 10, if he doesn't like them, he doesn't have to come back to it. I don't think that's going to be the case here because everybody that we've put this cigar in their hands, this new one, have raved about it, including Kip Fisher emailed me here the other day and was shocked at the taste and how clean it is. We've used a lot of Dominican tobacco in it, and I can tell you here tonight that the natural will be a Dominican Habano, and the Maduro will be getting changed from a Habano Maduro to a San Andres.
Got it. Okay. That's so that's a couple of interesting points that you brought up. So it sounds like the blends are changing, kind of quite a few changes, and then also in the 10 count box.
Right.
I'm curious because I know you're obviously a big proponent of brick and mortar shops, and they've been asking for 10 count boxes. And really the difference between online retail and a brick and mortar is the ability to go in and pick up a single onesie twosies.
Sure.
Are you seeing a trend with brick and mortar retailers that they're not selling the onesie and twosies, or that people are actually going into shops and buying more boxes and are looking for those 10 count boxes?
I think it's a little bit of both, because I have a little bit of both. The shops that are selling boxes, are selling a lot of the 10 count boxes as opposed to 20 count boxes. I've only had really one customer. He didn't, he wasn't upset or he didn't fight me over. He just said, hey, I just like 20 count boxes better. But he liked the blend so much that I will sell that. I will have no problem selling that cigar. They just like it in 20 count boxes.
Of course.
But most of my guys, especially some of the guys in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a few on the East Coast, are liking the fact that, I think it depends on the shop. I was in a shop today before you and I hooked up tonight, and, they don't really, they move a lot of onesies and twosies. And then you have a situation where I go in another shop the next week, and it's all about box sets. Because it's their clientele. And it's probably, Logan, depending on where the ownership, where they push the customer. I think that's
probably true.
So, if they've got guys that are buying boxes, the guys are going to come in. I mean, we did some couple events down in Texas, and guys were walking out with not just one box. Well, let me take that back. One night we had an event. It was one boxes, two boxes, and a lot of sticks. The next night, or the first night, it was 3 to 5 boxes going out under guys' arms. So, which for me was very gratifying, but it's just a difference. It's same company, but 2 different stores.
Well, exactly.
So,
well, on the Legend Reserve 63, I mean, I think this. I mean, you haven't necessarily shook up the line this drastically since the beginning, but you've always made little tweaks to the Legend Reserve 63. I mean, is that kind of what we expect to see from the Legend Reserve every 1 or 2 years once the tobacco dries up, or is this going to be consistent going forward?
I don't think so. It's going to be consistent now. A lot of it is that one of the things that I can say about La Tradicion Cubana, Luis Sanchez, the people that we have in the Dominican Republic that manage the facility, it is about some. You have to always worry about getting the same consistent tobacco. Yes, that's. But this blend is pretty much set in stone forever. I mean, it was one that when we dialed it in, I mean, I can't wait for you to come to the show and try it. I think you're going to impress because it's very sweet from the one of the filler leaves. We took our filler leaf out and we put a new filler leaf in, and I think that it's a sweet tasting cigar, but yet very clean. It has absolutely no aftertaste. And I think it's because of the leaf that we put in there. It is the way it smokes. You're going to get it. It's going to seem like it's a medium-bodied, light, medium, full Logan, but it's going to shock you because it has a profile change of about 2 to 3 times, and it's really more of a medium full, but it's masked to a degree because of this really super leaf that we're using inside.
Got it. So, quick question now. We've got a couple minutes here before we get to the break. I know last year at the trade show, saw your lineup, pretty familiar with it. I remember that you had a few bundles of the Dark Continent, and it was something that you were going to release, and I haven't seen hide nor hair out of that. What's the latest on that project?
We kind of held off a little bit on that, Logan, because we were using genuine African Cameroon as the wrapper, and I don't have to tell you that stuff is like tissue paper.
Expensive and a pain.
It's expensive, and we had some issues, and I was not willing to put them out there. Neither was Lewis, because we could smoke them in Miami or at the factory in the DR, and they smoked fine. We'd get them in this dry climate out here, and they had a tendency to crack. Yep. And it's because the expansion on the inside was putting pressure, obviously, on that very thin leaf. So we've kind of put that on hold temporarily. I will probably come back to the Dark Continent, but I'm going to dial it back. I kind of was thinking at the time on the 60 ring gauge cigar, but quite honestly, I think there's a lot of people still like 60 ring gauge, but I think that particular cigar will be much better if it's maybe no more than a 56. Just because I think it'll withstand climate changes from different parts of the United States.
Got it. Well, I'm very curious to try because I haven't smoked it yet. So with that,
I'll bring you one at the show. I'll bring you a couple of them. I got them here. It's just you can have them. They just never got released. Just remind me before I go to the good Las Vegas.
I will definitely remind you. And with that, everyone, we're going to take a 5-second break commercial. All right, everyone, we're back. Cigar Chat on the Armed Forces Radio Network, broadcasts around the world. Appreciate everything you guys and gals do for us every day. We're here with Terry Johnson of La Tradicion Cubana, as well as TL Johnson Cigars. This next segment is brought to us by the Cigar Federation store and our good friends at Delaware Cigar. Definitely check out. We have a show special Terry's been gracious enough to let us sell his product on the Cigar Federation store. Check it out. Everything through, I believe, Sunday is 10% off. That includes the Legend Reserve 63, the Tempio, as well as the Signature Series. So check them out. Go to the top tab, hit Show Specials, and you'll be able to discounts already applied. So check it out, store.cigarfederation.com. So, Terry, to pick it up where we left off, we've kind of went through the changes coming up to the Legend Reserve. We talked about the Dark Continent. We also talked about the farm that you guys are working on, or well, you guys have and are working to procure more land there in the Dominican. So, kind of tying that all together, what should we expect from La Tradition, TL Johnson at IPCPR this year?
There's going to be, with the La Tradition line, the La Tradition Cubana line, Lewis is leaving the LTC alone and the Sabor Cubano alone, but he's adding a line that comes in 10-count boxes that have been bumped on the blend with some of the same filler leaf that we're using for the Legend Reserve because of the taste. And it's going to be called Reserva Familiar. And that will be released at the show under the La Tradition line, as well as the Las Memorias will be the same. We've got the Anytime Smokes, which is a little 3 by 2022 ring gauge. And the JML he makes. That's pretty much everything is kind of the same. We're kind of in a, I wouldn't say a lull, Logan, but we're in a pattern that right now we're spread so thin that we're in a situation where we got the farm going on. We're trying to figure out a new facility for the factory, for a box factory, for warehouse and tobacco. We're actually in a warehouse now very close to Davidoff, and we're stretched pretty thin between just two of us. And so far as my line is concerned, the Tempio is getting a new cigar this year. We're adding a 44 by 5 3/4 extreme box press. It's got a new box with little bit new, nicer trays, nicer box, gold foil stamp. The Legend Reserve 63 is coming in 10 count now with the full complement. There probably will be some new stuff added, but it won't be in time for the trade show, but it will be by fall. The other thing that we're probably going to do is, which I don't think we've discussed, and it's kind of probably can give you, everybody watching here, kind of a first. Last year, I applied for the trademark for Counselor Cigars. Counselor Cigars was an old factory in Pennsylvania that started in 1894. And so we have the trademark done, and now we're starting to build cigars under the Counselor brand. Kind of like some of the old vintage brands that you've seen from other companies.
Like Cremo, 724, so on and so forth.
Exactly. The one thing I will tell you that we're doing a little bit different than everybody else, I was able to acquire some labels for some small cigars, no larger than 38 ring gauge, from 1931.
No joke.
So some of the initial cigars, when they launch, and they will launch this year yet, will have 1931 labels from the original Cressman factory on them from 1930, 1931. So I was able to obtain about 100,000 labels. And we're also coming out with a small 3 by 20, 3.5 by 20 box 50 cigar that will look like a mini, for all intents and purposes, looks like a mini Churchill, but it's similar to the Anytime Smokes that Lewis is doing, but these are a little more Churchill-ish looking, but mini. It looks like somebody shrunk a Churchill down. Okay. And they're going to have a label on them. They're going to come in a box of 50, and we're trying to maybe have those done at the show. Now, I will tell you that the difference in our little mini cigars or cigarillos from everybody else is we hand make all of them. They're not machine made. They're completely handmade, and they're long filler. as far as long filler is concerned. You got to figure it. I mean, it's long filler as far as the 3.5 inch cigar is concerned. So um, it is long filler, all hand rolled. We have molds for them, and we actually make them by hand there at the factory.
So
And
is the smaller ring gauge that's the counselor or not?
that will be the counselor. Yeah, we're going to start off with some, and we're looking at a name. You're going to laugh at this, but we're looking at a name called. They're going to be 52 a box. They're going to be called the bailiffs.
The bailiffs?
Yeah, because counselor is an attorney, so
right.
we're running off of we're running off of kind of a legal team here for counselors. So we're going to have those. We're looking at the name. It's not set in stone yet, but it's something that we're thinking about calling the bailiffs, and then we're going to have an original line, and then I'm going to come out with a Maduro line, full complement line, similar to the some of the other vintage brands that are on the market. Standard big ring gauge cigars. Robustos and Lonsdales. Because Lonsdales for us, I don't know what you guys have been seeing out there, but Lonsdales, Lanceros, the smaller ring gauge size Coronas have been super hot for us. And so, especially I know you're familiar with the Jameson line, the Santos de Miami. Brad did that 38 ring gauge. I think it was 38 ring gauge Santos de Miami Lancero last year, and that thing, I don't think he thought that those cigars were going to be as hot as they were, and they completely sold out in no time. So they're all back in production.
Oh, go ahead, Terry. Finish your thought. No, finish your thought.
I said they're all back in production now. So we're excited to have those back up to snuff, at least on numbers, because we built them ahead and they've been sitting for a while. So they're in Miami in the warehouse now. So we can deliver, the Santos de Miami at least for a while, but we're coming from behind on that a little bit. So we've got quite a few in stock, but we've had a lot of stores order here as soon as we told them that the Lancero was back available.
I was going to ask you, because you mentioned the Extreme Box Press and you led right into the Santos de Miami. I haven't heard much out of Brad, and I'm curious because just to give everyone a little bit of background, La Tradicion kind of expands, Lewis's brand, T.L. Johnson, and kind of Jameson. It's all kind of wrapped together. And I haven't heard much from Brad in terms of what he's doing. And frankly, I didn't even know he was still doing it. So doing cigars. What's the latest on Brad?
He is, but he is. He got an opportunity to take a job with his dad, and his dad's got a big company. And so really right now, Lewis is in charge of the Santos de Miami. That's the main one we're producing right now, and we got to look at the La Resolucion, because that cigar, and I'm pushing on to get that back under wraps. It's a great cigar, and I think Brad was at a little bit, and Brad's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, and he's been with Lewis longer than I have, and I think he, I don't think he lost interest in the business. I just think that he wasn't sure the direction he wanted to take Jameson cigars. And so we're producing it for him, or Lewis is, and we want to keep that great name going, because it was an awesome stick. It sold well. And then when last year he introduced that little Lancero, I don't know if you got a chance to try one of those.
I did. It was phenomenal.
That thing, and I think the thing that people don't realize is that cigar is a Dominican Puro, and it smokes absolutely nothing like a Dominican Puro. So I think that is a tribute to how well our factory is, and or what kind of quality our factory produces, and how well we understand blending. And I'm into blending, now, and a couple of things that I didn't mention, and I will bring up now, going back to the farm a little bit, is there's a possibility, we're working on it, and it's 99% sure. We're going to have, like a couple other big companies, we're going to have our own hybrid leaf that has been in development that we've been able to pick up, and we've already grown a little bit of it. I got to smoke it here a few weeks ago, and it is a hybrid of Criollo 98, and it's something that we have, and we will probably have pretty much the exclusive on, and you're going to see some T.L. Johnson cigars, some La Tradition, and probably some Jameson stuff in the future being made out of our own leaf. That is it's our own designation and comes from our farms, and not just Cuban seed leaf, but I mean this stuff was done just for us.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, it was developed. Let me rephrase that. It was developed just for our brand, just for us. So it's exclusive. It's an exclusive leaf to us.
Got it. Okay. So I've got to ask. I mean, is it Corojo 99 with Creo 98? Can you share some of the specifics on the leaf?
It's been 14 years in the making.
14 years.
Yes.
It's like half my life.
It's 14 years into development, and it is something that we were able to negotiate on, and we found it. The stuff that we smoked was literally a cigar made from one plant. So in other words, it had the filler was this hybrid leaf, the binder was this hybrid leaf, and the wrapper was this hybrid leaf. And it's very peppery on the light up. Dies back to maybe a medium plus, and then about 2/3 of the way through, that thing comes on as strong, body-wise, power-wise, as any cigar you've probably ever smoked. Randy and I smoked one in Texas, and we hadn't eaten, so I thought, well, when that happened to me, I thought maybe it's just because I haven't had anything to eat. We were doing an event, and we wanted to test them, and we had the opportunity of kind of testing them. And then I went over and asked Randy. I go, so what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that new cigar? And he goes, I think I need a Pepsi. So
that's awesome.
So I need a little caffeine, so a little sugar. But we will be releasing that here within the next year and a half. You got to let this stuff kind of process through. And it takes a while for tobacco not only to ferment, but you also want it to age and age in the bales. And we're pretty excited about having our own. It'll be something that will be exclusive, and it'll be something we'll probably sell it, but at the same time we'll probably use a lot of it for our own cigar production.
Okay, no, that's awesome. So we've got here, Terry. We've got about a minute before the next break. A quick 1-minute answer. How in the last year since we've talked, since IPCPR, how much have you exceeded your wildest expectations with La Tradition? Are you guys just blowing through, or you think are you where you think you are? I mean, do you think you're at where you're supposed to be? I mean, what do you think going into the trade show this year?
I think we're where we're supposed to be. I mean, in a sense, it's like a roller coaster. You're always going to have your ups and downs, but also, there's days that I want it to grow fast, but then there's days I'm glad it kind of takes baby steps, because I'd rather grow a company slowly and surely than, go out there what I'm seeing some of these other companies going through, where they grew it fast and all of a sudden now they're struggling, or they're cutting back on their factory rollers, or they're cutting back on sales staff, whatever. So I think that we're doing that in a right pace. I really do.
Awesome. And that's what I would expect from you, Terry. So with
that, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're low and slow, man. It's the way I like it. You're old school.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to take a quick radio break, and we'll be back on the other side. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Cigar Chat, broadcast on the Armed Forces Radio Network, heard around the world. Thank you for everything you guys do for us every day, keeping us safe and protecting our freedoms. We're in our last segment here with Terry Johnson of La Tradition Cubana, as well as T.L. Johnson Cigars. We've kind of ran the gamut. We've talked about Legend Reserve. We talked about the farm. We've talked about kind of everything coming out, new hybrid leaps. So in this segment, Terry, we take a lot of audience questions who've kind of prepared before time. So I'm going to run through these kind of in a rapid fire mode, and just kind of just looking for hear what you're saying. So
okay, sure.
Let's start here. While in the cigar business, and this is from Rick S., while in the cigar business, is there something you wish you had done differently looking back on it?
Yes. I wish I'd have met Luis Sanchez from day one. I was with another factory when I started, and I had a lot of quality issues. So it's taken me a little bit of time to get over those quality issues and get past that. Not that we had bad cigars, they just weren't up to snuff to what I wanted. And now with Lewis, we're growing, like we just said, we're growing at a steady pace. We've got good quality. Quality is a big issue. As you said, it's old school. It can't be any more old school than who I'm working with, because I'm working with a very traditional, old school Cuban. And you know what? I am personally honored to be his partner, and I'm personally honored, to be working with him. And we've got some good things, on the horizon.
Got it. So this question actually ties in really great. I feel like we ask questions from this guy every week, but Mike Pouzin asks, you talk about La Tradicia Cubana. What are some of the Cuban traditions that Lewis and you guys employ in the cigar making process, and have there been other processes that have come along that are maybe better, more optimized, that you guys consider using?
Not really. I mean, we still use the intubado method, of rolling cigars, which is, the rolling the straws and the bunching method that way. And, all our cigars are made that way, and it eliminates any tight draw. It eliminates any kind of burn issue. The only time you're going to really have, and I've had people, that have emailed me. There's always somebody out there that, is trying to get over on you. But I've had guys email me and say, well, I've got a burn issue. Okay, once it leaves my warehouse, I'm a little bit limited on how much I can control it, because 9 times out of 10, the burn issues I see, Logan, are the cigars are too wet. In other words, they've been either over humidified, or in very few cases they're under humidified. But when you have some that channel or run very, very, they'll run down the cigar very, very bad. 9 times out of 10, it's not, at least for us, it's not a quality issue. It's just that they're too humid, and they have to just be set back. And people need to understand that, and they need to, if they got humidors at home, keep them at 70 as close as possible. I can't control what a dealer does, but that's the issues I've seen. So, but so far as the method we use, it's old school Cuban. I mean, it's very old school Cuban. So, I mean, that's why I think our quality is very high, I'm very, I can say that I'm very proud of that, but I know Luis Sanchez is very proud.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I would expect with La Tradicia Cubana. He's, intubado and other methods, and which makes total sense. A next question from one of my personal favorites, Man Angel Jose, and this is a great question. I don't think we've ever asked this before. Is that since you guys have your own farm and it's been used for cigarette tobacco and other things before, do you have to recultivate the land to make it actually ready to grow cigar tobacco?
No, because we have an agronomist on staff, and that agronomist, we do soil tests before we did complete soil test before anything was done to that ground. Soil tests were done, fertilizers were used. We were some of the first people down there because we went to the meetings and we were able to get it. I was not able to go to that meeting. It was at the Institute of Tobacco there in Santiago, and we were able to get pesticides and things that people had problems with this year that we, knock on wood, did not have problem with. Some of the tomato viruses and stuff that was going around. Most of that didn't affect too much cigar tobacco. It was really mostly over in like burley tobacco, cigarette tobacco that's still being grown by one of the big cigarette makers. But to answer that question, no. This year we were able to plant behind cigarette tobacco, and we brought the soil up to where it needed to be. And if you guys will go to our Facebook page at the Compañía de Siembra de Tradicion and take a look at the photos on there on Facebook at our tobacco when it was hanging in the barns, you'll see that Criollo 98 we grow is absolutely gorgeous.
So, follow-up question to that, Terry, is that I know several people who are getting in and trying to become more vertically integrated and having their own farms, their own factories. You know, when you grow, I don't know how many manzanas you guys are growing on currently, but with the tobacco, I mean, obviously if you grow 3 manzanas, not everything's going to be great tobacco. I mean, are you planning on keeping, top 20% and using that for La Tradicion cigars? Are you going to be selling the rest, or I mean, what's are you going to use all of it? Like, what are the plans?
Our goal is to become a supplier,
Okay.
honestly. Now, I cannot, for production's sake, and I think Lewis would tell you the same thing, we cannot grow everything we're going to use. Because, obviously we're using some Ecuadorian leaf, we're using some Brazilian Oscuro, San Andres. As you know, I use a lot of Pennsylvania. And so I can't grow everything. But what we are growing is going to be, we haven't settled in on that yet because we're too fresh of a growing company. Because you're going to come up with, depending on how it's handled and processed, you're going to come up with what they call inferior leaf, which is used for filler. Sometimes you're going to have broken stuff that's going to be used for maybe medium filler, short filler cigars. So to answer your question, and we haven't dialed that in yet. I know the first crop we're going to keep a little bit back, and the rest of it is going to be sold. Because that's how we make our money. I don't want to say this because it sounds like I'm, the word flipping, but literally we're trying to go ahead and sell it, reinvest that money, and keep expanding. So that's my goal right now. That's the name of the game is expansion and growing more and more tobacco. And being able to grow. I can tell you we're going to be growing more of this new leaf. We're going to be growing more Criollo 98. We have looked at Piloto. I haven't made a decision on Piloto yet because everybody's telling me down there the Piloto, the biggest problem with Piloto is it doesn't yield. It's a great leaf, love it, but it doesn't yield extremely high. So farmers are a little bit more reluctant to grow it because it just doesn't have a yield on it. But I like using it. So
Right, exactly.
I may grow a little bit of it. I probably let the cat out of the bag by saying Piloto, but I'm using quite a bit of Piloto now, and I can tell you that I love the taste and I love the way it smokes. I love the way it burns, and it's we're looking at growing a little bit more of that, and maybe some Corolla. I mean, I'm looking at shade leaf now because there's only really one manufacturer. I know you know who that is down there growing shade wrapper leaf, and
In
I'm
the
looking at
Dominican?
in the Dominican,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I am looking at growing some wrapper leaf as well. I'm going to start off on a small basis, but we will be growing a little wrapper leaf in the future.
That's awesome. So, kind of a follow-up question to that is, where, I mean, obviously the entire company is a priority, right? But where
Mm-hmm.
you're investing most of your time, is it in the brands and the cigars, or is it the crops and buying land for the future? Where you see you investing most of your time and money now?
We have, and that was the reason why I have Randy Shorman, which I hope will continue to stay on board with us to kind of eventually step into my shoes. The reason for that is because I know that I have to spend more time as we grow. I will need to spend a little bit more time in the DR watching the crops, especially certain times of year. Right now, we're working strongly on the brands to give them more and more exposure. We do this the way we do it because, as you know, and I don't need to tell you that if you go with some of the larger print magazines, I like doing stuff like with you guys and and bloggers because I think guys are really paying more attention to that than they are print magazines. So I don't do any real print ads simply because I feel it's a waste of money. I would rather take care of my brick and mortar stores, give them deeper discounts than spend, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for something that's just an ad, slick ad somebody's gonna look at it today and it's probably gonna get file 13 tomorrow.
Yep.
So, I'd rather present the brand with venues like what you have here, and people can ask me questions, you can ask me questions, and get an idea of who we are. Because we're a great company, and I want people to understand when they buy uh, anything from the Cuban Tradition Cigar Group, which is La Tradition, Jameson, T.L. Johnson, Counselor, and a few other things we do, um, private labels that we do, that it's about quality. And you hit the nail on the head earlier tonight. It is about it's old school. And I mean, with everything that's going on out there today, there's a lot of companies that are, uh, you know, they're pushing the younger crowd, and I don't want to discount that, but at the same time, I'm very, at my age, I'm very, more old school coming into the business and looking at it from that side as I am, uh, with my hat turned on backwards or something like that neighborhood, looking like a I don't know, gangster or whatever. I'm just, I am who I am, and and for my other businesses of 30 years, I've always done it that way, and that's how I was taught. So I made every decision I've made has been about tradition and quality and craftsmanship, and that's the way we continue forward. So I think that's I think that's the that's I think that'll for longevity. I think that's what you need to for at least in my eyes. It's more about the the longevity than it is just getting a quick cigar out the door and a year from now we're out of business. I don't want that, and I don't think you would. I don't think you would be. We'd be sitting here, and I know about Luis Sanchez, who's been out there a long time. So, I have a lot on my shoulders because I'm pushing. I'm right now handling the marketing side, and so, it is about. To answer your question, it's kind of a 50-50 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And Terry, you've been in a lot of other businesses, and I know that you obviously put, quality and workmanship and pride. And in your old school, just like your creeper mustache you're rocking right now.
Yeah,
You're just old school, man.
That's my Thomas Magnum going on there,
Exactly. So with that, Terry, we're at the end of our AFRN broadcast. So quickly, kind of walk through, if you would, just where everyone out there watching and listening can find you. Website, social media. Where can they connect with you?
We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on Pinterest. We're on Google Plus. We're on Instagram. All the social media sites. You can find myself. You can find the Cuban Tradition Cigar Group. You can find Jameson. You can find La Tradition Cubana. You can find, if you're on Facebook, we do have actually a closed group. You can apply to be a member. Right now, that is, it's called the Cuban Tradition Cigar Group Insiders, and that is so some of those guys get a first look at things that are coming out before we announce it, kind of get people excited to get to the brick and mortar stores. We have brick and mortar stores throughout the country. We've grown quite large so far as that's concerned from where we were last year when I saw you at the IPCPR. And we actually don't really do any online business. We have elected to stay away from that and go it again old school with and support our brick and mortar dealers. So unlike some of the other companies that are selling to some of the big online stores, we have elected to stay away from that currently. I learned a long time ago, never say never. My other business.
Yeah, exactly.
My other business, I was approached by some of the major box stores, and I never went with those. And I think long term it paid off in the sense that the dealers respect you when you're keeping them in business because they have to make a living. And of course, we have to make a living, but I don't like my stuff discounted. If anybody wants T.L. Johnson cigars currently, online, Cigar Federation.
There you go. Exactly. Said it from the man. So, Terry, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out. Appreciate everyone listening in. Thanks and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.
All right. So now, Terry, we're back. This is the final segment. You can
Oh,
cuss as
okay.
much as you want.
Okay.
There's no rules. Luckily, I only almost dropped an F-bomb once in that previous segment, so we're good. So
I
in
think
the final,
I think we did pretty good. I mean,
I,
I think we did a good show. We didn't joke around this time. I think we went serious. So
yeah, we were serious, and so
yeah.
we're still rocking it. We're still live. Everyone's still watching us on Cigar Federation. This part just audio won't be in the REFRN broadcast. But what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and do the giveaways, guys. And I'm sorry that Rob's not here, but what we'll do is I'm not going to pick them tonight. Once the show's over, when I have a little bit more time to actually do it, everyone just email me with La Tradicion Cubana in the subject line, your name, address, and I'll just pick. We're going to give away 2 boxes of the Legend Reserve Habano, Legend Reserve 63 Habanos. I believe they're Churchills. To get or it'll be 8 5-packs. So email me now for your chance to enter, and then after the show, I'll line out who wins, just because I don't want to do it on the show right now because I'm freaking lazy. So Terry, I've got to ask, you have been kind of a silent type stranger in the industry. There's a lot of people that know who you are, but you haven't, like you've described before, you haven't made the big wakes. You haven't released a ton of cigars. How do you think that has helped or hurt you in your kind of your current position? I mean, do you think that's helped, hurt, or is going to be a good thing for the long run? What do you think?
That's a good question. I think that it probably has hindered us a little bit from the standpoint that we're kind of the quiet company. We're sitting off in the wings, kind of waiting to pounce. I know Lewis back in the '90s went through the heyday when cigars, kind of exploded. And I've taken a page from him because the one thing that I have that some of the guys in the industry don't have is I have a partner that is very experienced. So far has been through those heydays, has been through, the ups and downs, watched cigars go, I mean, completely nuts when people were just putting out any old kind of stick and putting it on the shelf. And I think that having that experience on our team and having that experience to draw from is something that a lot of companies don't have. So to kind of get back to your question, it probably hindered us in a way because we're not like a lot of the companies who are making some big splashes and as I said in the last when we were talking before, I don't care about the big splash as much as I am the longevity and making damn sure that these cigars, when they come out of the factory, they are the utmost quality. There's some things we're doing in the production facility and production process that, to eliminate any kind of issues with beetles and stuff that happens, that's just part of the business, but we're trying to eliminate that. And because I want my stuff to sit on the shelf, and I want it to be, when people see that T.L. Johnson label, they will recognize that is quality, and you're buying cigars from guys that have a passion for what they do. And so that I really haven't taken the time, Logan, to honestly address or look at that issue. So, I mean, because I'm so busy with everything going on that I really have not paid it much mind. We're doing well. We got a couple of new sales staff that just joined recently that you'll get to meet at the show. We have a young man that's come on board from Texas down at San Antonio, Alex Satapia, and I hope I pronounced that right. We've got a new guy in the Northwest, Nick Atoro, which, again, I hope I pronounced that right. And he's taken over sales for Oregon, Washington, Idaho, possibly later on Northern California. Alex is doing San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and we're probably kind of going to see how he is able to cover that territory. I was just talking to a rep today from another manufacturer that's out of Texas, And I'm looking because of the market. You live in Texas, Logan. The
Yep.
Dallas market almost needs a salesman by itself, because there's so many shops. So and I'm talking Texas only because it's such a big market. We've got a guy up in New England. Randy and I are handling some of the stuff in between, and we're even handling some stuff in Wyoming. We got a shop in Wyoming, believe it or not. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I don't know if you're familiar with Casper Cigar Company. Josh Cruz that owns Casper Cigar. Our cigars up there, thank God. I couldn't be more blessed. I'd love to have a bunch of him, and of course we're in good karma over in Amarillo, and
Yep. And
and look,
Lubbock as well.
oh,
I've
I
been
love
there
it.
several times.
And I'm telling you, man, those guys, they get behind us and push us. And matter of fact, my cigars in Casper are basically, Josh has told me we're his house brand. And I'm not just talking T.L. Johnson. I'm talking Jameson. I'm talking La Tradition, all the brands of La Tradition. So, we've done super well through the Rocky Mountain region, Texas, Northwest, New England, and we are at a point where we're being, again, taking baby steps on who we hire, because sometimes you have to kind of wade through a lot of mud to get good sales staff. And I think who we've got now, they're very good guys, and they have a passion for the business, and we certainly want to get behind them and push them as much as they push us. And so we're excited about where we're sitting right now. We haven't really pushed Florida too much, especially Miami, because Miami, in my opinion, is a waste of time. There's too many cigars there already. So
There's a lot of cigars, and they're very loyal to their padrones, to their.
Oh yeah. And you can't blame them.
No, not at all.
Perdomo, not Perdomo, but Padron is a very consistent. And when I looked at jumping in the business, Padron was one of the ones that I looked at and said, I love the way they do things. And I'm not saying that we copied or anything them, but I just respect the way that Padron has done business, and it's a classy product. It's a consistent product. And if you're going to go and emulate somebody, that's a company that you kind of set your standards by, and that's kind of where when I looked at the business, I said, this is the type of, the way they do business is the kind of the way I like doing business, because it's about the product. It's not about it's about doing events. It's about supporting your brick and mortars, and it's supporting the people that smoke your cigars, and that's the direction I kind of took.
No, absolutely. So here, kind of in the last kind of 5 minutes, I'm trying to think of like a barn burning question. I think this would be the one that I'm going to ask, is that every year IPCPR seems to kind of have a theme. And what I mean is, like, last year was kind of the year of, the Ecuadorian Sumatra, right? Everyone was coming out with cigars like that. The year before that, everyone was using Ecuadorian Connecticut, San Andreas, KFC. There's always like some themes that run through.
Right.
I personally think one of the themes this year is going to be, a combination of, is the FDA going to fuck us? That's theme one. And theme two is that I've noticed, based on kind of the success from the Illusion Rothschild, Pete is now doing the tattoo, which is $6, and people are coming out with some cheaper quality smokes. What do you perceive from a manufacturing side that are going to be some of the trends that will dominate the trade show this year?
I stay out of that loop, Logan, and I stay out of it purposely because I'm trying to do my own thing. But I would imagine one of the themes is going to be, okay, how the hell are we going to fight FDA? There was some news that came out yesterday about the White House or whatever backing off the FDA. But I think that's a good, but yet can be a bad thing, because the fact the FDA is a typical government agency. They're going to do what they want to do, And I had one of my customers tell me something that I watch a lot of social media, and I see guys or the company saying you got to write the FDA, write the FDA. I think we should have went in personally as a collective and said, look, we're a strong industry. Do you really want to go up against us and
Yep.
fight us, that way? As opposed to a bunch of letters. I'm afraid, and maybe I'm stupid, but I'm afraid that a lot of these letters, Logan, are just going to get thrown in the trash. I don't know that, you and I are not there. We don't know how many people are going to look at them and go, here's another cigar smoking idiot. I think we needed to go in as one big collective. So far as what may show up other than the FDA, personally, I'm just looking at what I'm doing, and it's about increasing the quality of my blends, and so far as what everybody else is doing is concerned. I think that everybody is just trying to probably they've hit their markets now. They're kind of regrouping and trying to come up with something new, for sales. Honestly, Counselor was going to be my brand where I come in that mid-price point as long as the FDA, again, it goes back to the FDA, as long as they don't make us have $10 cigars, because I'm afraid if we all have to have $10 cigars, there's going to be a lot of $10 mediocre cigars.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's gonna hurt the industry. I mean, and it's a no doubt thing that what it's going to do if they're allowed to do what they want to do. So, I mean, I don't know what you've seen. Yeah, I think that there's, I think there's a little bit of a going back old schools for a lot of companies with, mediums bodied cigars, natural leaf, I don't know, Ecuador, Connecticut shade, whatever. There's, I've seen some Habano. I mean, there's some Connecticut broadleaf out there. I'm trying to do stuff that is a little bit off the chart so far as what people are not looking at. I'm even, honestly, I know that there was a run of Kentucky leaf out there for a while, Logan, and I have looked at Kentucky leaf strongly. I'm not looking at the Kentucky fire cured. I'm looking at the standard air-dried Kentucky leaf as a filler, and I've got some blends that I'm working on with Kentucky in it. I think that there was a little bit of surge for American-grown tobacco cigars, and I think that that's still a good market to hit, because it kind of went that way, but then everybody they backpedaled a little bit, and it didn't get. I don't think it made it over to the top of the hump, yet to what it could be. There's some good tobacco being grown in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and a few other places, and I think that that might be a little niche market. And I don't know what. I mean, you could tell me more about what you're seeing. I don't. I mean, what do you think the year is going to bring at the show? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess we'll leave it with my thoughts then. I mean, I think this is going to be one of the biggest trade shows there's ever been. I mean, already there's more manufacturers signed up for this trade show. They had to expand into the other hall there in the Venetian. I think that as much as I want to say that retailers aren't going to travel, I actually think there will be probably the highest volume of cigars sold at the trade show, purely because you'd be kind of an idiot not to go in and buy cigars at their current price. And if cigars do get jacked up to $10, that's obviously extra margin you're going to be making. So I think that that's kind of crazy not to go in and buy. But I also think in terms of that, I think people are looking. I think the days of a boutique company coming out and making a $10, $15 cigar is kind of over. I think people are looking for more economical options that are, $6 to $8, and I think you're going to see things like the Rothschilds, the Tattoo, and other cigars that are going to just absolutely crush it. I think you're going to see a ton of limited editions, because that's just what everyone wants, and you're exactly right. I think a lot of those limited editions are going to be smaller Vitolas, Coronas, Lanceros, Panatellas, Lonesdales, and I'm very curious just to see what the FDA does, because it could have a remarkably, it could have a dramatic impact in 30 days after they rule, right? I mean,
sure, and I mean, already I've seen some customers that normally were buying boutique brands have now somewhat transitioned back to some of the big brands, um, without saying who. I mean, but the bigger, massive brands, the conglomerates, because of the price point, and because I think the boutiques are realizing, wait a minute, they're backing up and going, damn, we're having a hard time getting really good quality tobacco at an affordable price, and I think that's going to be, if this deal goes through and we have to have a $10, can you imagine what tobacco is going to do price tag wise then? Because what's going to happen is it's not necessarily, I think, going to limit tobacco so far as the availability anymore. It's going to be less of it sold because people can't afford it, and the less of it sold is because these warehouses that are brokers for tobacco are going, wait a minute, there's going to be less cigars sold, so we're going to sell less tobacco, so we got to go up on our price to make up for what we're selling, less volume.
Exactly.
So it's a double-edged sword, I mean, so you're going to see, I think, I don't know what the FDA is trying to do, but yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of sticks that eventually that started out in that $8 to $10 market are going to have to go up to 10 to 15. So it's gonna hurt the industry as a whole, because there's a lot of guys that purposely smoke $3 to $5, $6 cigars, and
Yep.
they're not going to be able to afford them anymore.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, Terry, really appreciate you. So this is the final segment. So that's not a trick, like we're not going to some fourth, fifth segment. So yeah, I just appreciate you coming on the show, talking with us about La Tradition Cubana, as well as Jameson and TL Johnson. Look forward to talking to you at the show. And yeah, man, really digging what you're doing. Looking forward to smoking the new stuff. And just take it easy, brother, and see you in about less than a month.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having us on. And as always, we appreciate everything you do. And if there's anybody out there that are working for shops that are want to come by, we're at booth 3040, and come by and sit down with us and let's talk cigars.
All right, Terry, man. Appreciate it, man. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, man. Have a great time, and I appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.
All right, Terry. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.